I was at Billy's the other day and I was surprised on the half and I was like, $24.99. And I'm like, they let me cost you that. It's not for practical, you know. When I was a kid, no, it's good crack, but they'll give you something. $45 a pound. Yeah. Oh, I'm just for that used to. I prefer there than building.
That's what I didn't understand.
I was invited to a family reunion last night. So I went to Clipper's, got some smoke. So I did it as an appetizer, put some salad out there.
Yeah, let's go.
Right. Yeah, our website. Where anybody?
Brown fans.
Let us pray. Lord, we're grateful for the day you've given us. We're grateful for the opportunity that we have to gather together. Lord, we ask your blessing on our meeting. We give you thanks for the beautiful world that you have given us, and we pray that you would help us to be good stewards of it. Now, Lord, most of all, we're grateful for all that you've done for us, especially the gift of your Son, Jesus Christ. And it's these things we pray in his name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Play ball. Play ball.
Let's go with 6 years. It's not normal, but yeah. So, we're gonna have a small crowd tonight. I think everybody's graduating this week from every school in the country.
Too like graduated all weekend long.
There was Friday night, Saturday night, everyone went out with teams for lunch, and there was a week there at school to see. I had a graduation that day, and it was packed. It was crazy.
There's something going on at the Coliseum, I think one of the graduations.
That's one of the high schools. They all use it. Buckeye uses it.
So.
We leave here, we're gonna have to way around.
But I think we'll be past the graduations when we get to the 30th, which is a rescheduled 7 fly fishing festival at Keys Park. For those who don't know, we scheduled to have it in January, and we got a snow advisory or ice advisory, whatever. It never quite materialized here, but I can tell you that Natchitoches was packed with ice, and it was bad. And everything along I-20 was bad. And that was over half of the weeks. Our flight obviously presented that area. So we rescheduled for May 30th and same location, Keys Park, same time, 8:30 to 3 o'clock. We've had a few changes in the gas. We have 22 tires, by the way, from Louisiana, Texas, and Arkansas. We do have a change in the speakers though. So we have myself giving a presentation on kayak fishing because Doc is taking his retirement. Doc Andre is taking retirement cruise somewhere. in the ponds and wherever. So he won't be available. And then, we'll bring it up to, Senza Fest right there. Going to place in Senza Fest. Yeah, right there. So you can go to the website and see this. Go down, go down some. Yeah. Okay, and then we have, David Rogers. He's now a guide on the Louisiana coast, guiding for redfish, a drone, he said. He's going to have a presentation on there.
Where's he out of?
He's out of short area. And then Fred Dupree, who's a Buzz Busack Memorial Award winner. That's the highest honor in fly tying that you can get. And he's just didn't written the book on fly tying. And so he's going to be doing a 90-minute presentation. And it says time effective flies. It's actually going to be effective flies for bass and brim. This is to be demonstrating and talking about those patterns and using them.
Oh, nice. That'd be
So it's
good.
not be like Ty and tell you how it works and everything else like that. So should be really good. And then we have Jeff Ferguson doing advanced casting. And then Bill said he'd do some casting coaching in the afternoon. So we have a good program. The net proceeds go to the food bank in Central Louisiana. So they don't pay each park rental. Instead, you make a donation to the food bank. They'll come home from our raffle. So if anybody can donate something, you got something that, you know, one man's trash and one man's treasure. You've got an old fly rod, an old fly reel, tie box of flies to donate, that's great. You go into a raffle and if we part of the proceeds, or maybe most of the proceeds, will go to the food bank. Part of the proceeds will go to our fund here, because our fly tying needs some more money. And let's see, anything else? Any questions?
Can members participate in the raffle?
Everybody who participates.
Oh, yeah. Anybody, yeah.
Especially members. Okay, I didn't know if we were exempt from that.
Oh, no,
It was a conflict of interest. Okay.
It's got raffle tickets. In fact, I think they're on there, the price of raffle tickets somewhere on there.
It was.
But it's like, you know, $5 for $5. And if you buy more, you get, you know, if you pay $20, you get 25 tickets. So, so spend money. We will do that. And there's some nice auction items as well.
So what do you prefer, catch flies or tackle? What do you find is the best draw?
Everything.
Whatever you got, bring it up.
Yeah, whatever you got. You know, this is the time of year I go through my stuff and I see some stuff that, you know, oh yeah, okay.
Time to restock.
It's getting too hot to get out anyway.
And another thing is, you know, Christmas, there's 2-for-1 sales sometimes. You know, there's BOGO sales. So I'll buy something, like a fly line, get a free fly line extra, and I'll give that in my little donation box. So, yeah, I'll wait till, you know, the Good Friday sales.
Yeah, Bill bought a mink wrap last year, year before last. A wrap or glove, what was that?
It was rabbit fur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got lots out too.
We've had a lot of interest on Facebook for the January event. So we'll see how much of a turnout we get for this one. But it looked like we were gonna get probably a record turnout for January. We'll see how that translates to May. I hope there's still a lot of interest. What else? Bill?
Mixed bag. Let's see. We have more entries than we have ever had at this point of the year. And there's the current standings. Aaron is off to a banging start this year so far. He's up to 38 already. But he's now getting into the more difficult fish. So he's done his saltwater run and his Arkansas and broken bow run. So he's getting to some tougher fish. Then Chris, 26. Chris has won it before. He had a 19 and me at 18, Jerry and Jim, and then proud of Frank over there. Frank's coming on. Yeah. So 185 entries so far.
And we've had years where we've not had 185 entrants. Got so far, yep. And then on the big catch. Ooh, that's,
Memorial.
well, yeah, catch memorial. We got two 16-inch largemouths, 13.5-inch crappie, a 9.5-inch red ear, and a 19-inch brown trout. So Jerry at this point is the points leader, Jerry Patton, on the big catch. But we only have 19 entries, so we definitely need more entries. So.
And they had the ball group.
Yep, gotta have the bump plate and rule.
But,
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody saw a little email I sent.
We saw it.
You
Yeah.
get these little things on for $12 on Amazon.
Yeah.
Have a book really in your pocket on your belt, or whatever, so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be a problem. Who knows, I might even have a couple of those in the raffle. Go back to the calendar. We do have another event coming up, after the festival. Later mid-June, actually mid-June. Architect Solar Fly Tires is gonna have, the time, the event at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame in Natchitoches. I think it's called Bike at the Museum. Is that right, Anthony?
Yeah, that's correct. And the actual event is on the Saturday. I think the Friday night they have like some kind of taste event of Taste of Natchitoches or something that's part of that. But that's for tires only. I think that on the 12th.
So that, yeah, if you click on that right there. The details about the time. Yeah, 10 AM to 4 PM. So. And then the fee for admission is the Hall of Fame, I think. It has nothing to do with Alto, it's what the Hall of Fame charges for entry. But then you can go to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, and that is really something. If you've ever been there, I highly recommend it. Anything else? Bill?
I think we're good.
Any other question? I see we have the new members here. Yes. Any fishing reports? Oh, I tell you, it's been tough, huh? Well, yeah, and just this past week, I was catching bass out there, Cotillo. I don't know where they've been. They've been hiding. Yeah. Thanks the other one.
That's the wrong one.
I think I had the proper title on the other one.
They're both said.
So we have, I'm introducing Zane right here. Let's get. Yeah, in person. Zane, your title is Program Director for
Black Bass Coordinator. So first, I'm a biologist. Probably started working with the department in 2004 as a student worker, and here I am, Black Bass Coordinator. So basically, making more of an effort to communicate with the public and stakeholders, and I guess manage our bass for manage resource for the people of Louisiana and visitors.
So I'm really excited about this. I think this is something we need to do for a long time.
And as a bass angler, like the greatest position I could think of.
Yeah.
Make it as a pro angler, so Black Bass Coordinator.
Is it this one, you think?
Should be the one the last time, yeah, 231, yep. That's it.
I think that's the one I grabbed,
You know-
because I looked at the times. Yeah. It says Red Stick Day on it. That's fine though, if it says Red Stick.
I added some slides from
Give
the
you
last
this thing.
clicker, oh, Mike.
Yeah, just tap it. Just tap in.
All right,
That it?
That is it.
Okay.
I did correct the title, but state computer doesn't work that great, so maybe it didn't fix it. But catch was at the Restic Fly Fisheries event, and I added some information that happened since then. Would that be something? Wrong?
Yeah, you're good. And I'll click for you. Just
Go ahead.
tell me go. All right.
So, like I said, statewide black bass coordinator. I'm based out of our headquarters in Baton Rouge, but my responsibilities go statewide. And I have this slide for people that are not experienced anglers, might not be familiar with the term black bass, more of just a collective term. Like a lot of people hear black bass from the general public, they're like, I never seen one of those. But it's a collective term for the three species located in Louisiana, obviously the largemouth bass, Florida bass, which recently became its own designated species. It used to be categorized as a subspecies, but American Fisheries Society named it 2 years ago. And obviously the spotted bass, which is a native. So Florida bass been introduced since the 80s. That's the state hatchery. Booker Fowler is straight Florida bass production. So why Nashville bass? Back in 2021, there was an economic study between the department and Southwick Associates, and of one individual species, black bass, closely followed by panfish, provide the most economic impact to the state of Louisiana. I guess one reason for that is bass are extremely accessible. You know, have access to the coastal resources like speckled trout and redfish. And bass are found in probably within a mile of this office easily, in a ditch, canal, pond. So access to that resource. And that's basically why they created this position, since it's important to the state, important to our residents, and we're gonna try to increase our efforts in that department. All right. So also, we have many great fisheries. We have very diverse fisheries, like bass are in rivers, creeks, streams, obviously our reservoirs, and even in our estuaries, coastal areas. And 5 of our lakes made the 2025 Bassmaster top lakes in the Central Division, and they listed there. Obviously, Bussy Break, producing a lot of large bass. Toledo Bend, doing great. I just came back from Toledo Bend for 4 days of fishing. Grass is coming back in secret areas. Secret areas. Or you go to 6 Mile Creek and there's grass everywhere when you want to go fish somewhere else because it's almost too thick in the hydrilla. And other places like Caney Creek, Caney Lake, as some people will call it, Lake Claiborne, Cattle Lake, Black Bayou Austin. You notice, like to be in the top 25, you're producing large bass, large stringers and tournaments, and that typically happens in our more controllable systems, our reservoirs, our places with dams. Okay. So key elements of successful black bass management requires many facets, even more detailed than this, but if you were to summarize it, it'd be fish, habitat, and people, what the people want. But at the department, we predominantly focus on the research and population monitoring, habitat and water quality management, obviously strategic stocking and genetics work, enforcement side, and trying to improve our public engagement. There's a lot of information there's a lot of activity that we do as a department, but we don't really share our message very well. Even my dad doesn't know how much we do for fisheries management across the state, so. And you always have to be adaptive as time changes, so. All right. So we've broken down by 9 inland fisheries district. So everywhere across the state in each district, there's an inland fisheries manager. This area is Shelby Richard, works out of our Pineville office. And they have a dedicated biologist, and some regions have technicians. And we also have a aquatic plant control section broken down between the north part of the state and we have an extensive fish hatchery program just down the road, Booker Fowler. That's our largest facility. but we also have a smaller hatchery in Monroe. We have a hatchery in Lacombe. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service at the National Fish Hatchery in Natchitoches also gives us pond space. And smaller places down by Lacassine and Cross Lake, there's also some pond space that we utilize for bass production. So getting into our management efforts, electrofishing, that's the easiest way and best way, based on the scientific community to sample bass populations. Typically, this is down in Lake Buff, Louisiana. We're doing a genetic study. And so we basically go on each lake. I went out on Kincaid and Lake Concordia this year with district staff out of Pineville. We have set sampling stations, and we go basically, the objectives are to capture aging growth, catch per unit effort. Sometimes we do genetic studies if that's a lake that gets stocked regularly, length frequencies, PSD, proportional stock density, relative abundance, relative weight, forage base. I guess we'll also see if we have invasive species at that time. But each water body has a different number of stations in the spring and the fall based on size. And statewide, basically every important water body for recreational bass fishing gets sampled by our district. So we have a pretty good idea what's happening at each water body annually.
Are those results available to the public?
They are, so they included in water body management plans that are on our website, which currently they are like 20 to 40 page documents that a scientist might be interested in. It's not very publicly readable, but that is a plan of ours, is to make it more digestible, more simple, and more frequent for each water body to give an idea of what's
Code
happening.
word is public engagement,
For anglers.
and that would help you meet that criteria.
Yes.
Like,
There's a lot happening, but it's, and it used to be hidden in our website. We recently updated our website about a month ago. So it's easier to find now. It used to take me 10, 15 minutes to find it. But our new website is coming along. Also, we have net-based sampling, with gill nets and seines. Gill nets typically used for rough fish, like the carp and such, buffalo. But every now and then we'll get a 10+ pound bass. And more often than not, they're still alive because we don't let our nets sit there extremely long. And we'll obviously release them back into the system. That was either on Grand Bayou or Toledo. Not sure. That's Phyllis Dowden. He's out of Natchitoches. So he's the biologist, manager for Toledo Bend and Cane River and J.R. Kelly, public places. Shoreline sayings, I guess just touch on that. Basically, you can get, you can see production, you can see small bass that electrofishing might miss, and you can obviously get a good idea of the forage base in the system. That's in the Mississippi River, just north of Baton Rouge. Dirty job, but if it's hot outside, you might want to jump in. So, aging growth studies. Every now and then, depending on the water body, we'll do a 3-year aging growth study just to see how quick the bass are growing, see if there's something. You can learn a lot from, say, how long a 10-inch bass has been in the system, if he's growing fast, growing slow, etc. We basically get 10 per inch group up to 20+ inches. And once they start getting over 20 something, biologists don't want to kill them. So rather than sacrificing them, probably not the best, but still back in for the anglers to catch. So basically, there's an otolith, got one in my pocket from a 9-inch spotted bass. Anyone want to see it? Very small, ear bone located inside the head. It makes tree rings like a tree. It's from a red snapper. They're all different. Cross section them, and we could count the annual growth rings. Every time in the winter, when they slow their growth, they'll form this opaque band. So this would be a largemouth bass that is approximately 3 years old. And once they're larger, we cross section them on a high-speed diamond wafering saw. And you can see the rings. It's a 10+ year old bass, maybe 11. So we add that with our length and weight data. and we got a pretty good idea of how the system's doing. All right. So this is just a breakdown. That's probably too much to look at, but if you were to take our age and growth data and you can determine which water bodies are the bass growing the quickest in. And obviously you can see reservoirs like Poverty Point, it's one of our newest reservoirs. Growth to reach 15 inches was 2.56 years. But once you get down to our river system, the coastal areas, growth is a lot slower. Like place like that Chapel Eye Basin, it takes a bass almost, say 5.5 years to reach 15 inches. In that time frame, if you were to get hit by a hurricane, and then you reset everything, the reason why you don't have 10 pounders, because those fish need to live 9, 10, 11, 12 years. All right.
I have a question here, why is Toledo banned? I thought it was maybe for.
Yeah, that's pretty good. 3.05. For such a large system, built in what, the 60s, late 60s, 60s, something like that.
How was Poverty?
I was related to.
The reservoir.
Not that old.
Yeah.
2000 something. The only newest
That's the place
reservoir.
to go.
That.
That's the place to go.
Yeah, so you get the new lake effect as that all the nutrients are available, kind of like Bussy Break, renovated, completely drained, then all the nutrients work
So I was
out.
gonna ask you, like, this was done before Vernon in 2012.
Correct.
Yeah, because when they drained Vernon for like 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah, you get all that
And they came.
shoreline growth.
The fishing
Right.
bass exploded.
Probably over 100 bass over 10 pounds caught this year on Vernon, from what I've been told.
Yeah.
But everybody passes it up, including me, like I did this weekend, to go to Toledo Bend.
Easy to drive like that.
Same things happen on Indian Creek.
If we renamed Vernon Lake to like Big Bass Factory, then I probably would.
So what is it about Old River, of course, that, because we fish gar there, that's our gar hole, that's the second place.
Mhm.
What is it about it that's so fertile? Is it
Yes, so connected to the Mississippi River.
just gets a backflow from the
Yeah,
Mississippi?
We got a lot of nutrients.
Mhm.
We don't have an old population.
Mhm.
That same thing kind of gets reset depending on flood years.
Yeah.
You may miss a year of spawn depending on water levels. So it's dynamic, but healthy and productive.
Yeah.
So she goes on there twice? Oh, it's different years. Never mind.
Yeah, so we do age and growth studies periodically. That's just some of the data that I had available. We have quite a few. I think Kincaid, we doing an age and growth study right now. So we'll have updated data coming up from that reservoir. So this is taking all the age and growth data and just styles and then on a growth curve of total length at age. So obviously you can see it takes a while to get a 20+ inch 5-pounder. So that's a 10+ year old fish in some systems. It might be 7 in others. Our oldest growing fish from my otolith processing was out of Grand Bayou Reservoir. We had males and females around 15 years old.
Oh, goodness, wow.
So,
Cool.
and this is some of the management efforts that we do, drawdowns, a lot of misconceptions of why you draining all of our lake. Everybody's killing all the fish when the lake is low, but there's a big management objective behind it. Say you have a fluffy system where you don't have good spawning substrate, it's a great idea to bring it down periodically to harden that spawning areas. And obviously the terrestrial grass and vegetation comes up, and then once the lake gets flooded, you basically have free fertilizer. And we see the benefits of it, kind of like a Darbone. I think it's like the most 10 pounders we've seen weighed in tournaments in many years. And we had a pretty good drawdown 2 years ago. So that brings the system down. Those fish, you got better access to the bait fish and tend to grow better. Then you get better water quality, more nutrients once you refill it. Obviously you can add pea gravel and substrate for spawning if you don't have that option. Complete renovations is the best. but it takes a long time. If you want a forest to grow, you gotta wait 10+ years a lot of times, and people don't really want to see that. But we did have a unique opportunity. That's a Bussy Break Reservoir, when that property was donated to us to do a full renovation. But anything like that has a time span, as the habitat degrades, but we're currently working to bring in more. Since the surrounding properties part of the WMA, cut trees and bring in more cover that might persist longer. Artificial reefs, that's the Toledo Bend megastructure, we call it. We do that when we have opportunities to. I hope to do more of such in the future with anglers out there assisting us and bass clubs. And all of those locations are available on our website, but a lot of people don't even look at them. But we've seen anglers catch a fish 3 hours, crappie, 3 hours after we drop the artificial reef. Oh, thank you.
Been over 1,000.
Yeah, but there's an outdoor explorer map on our website. Like go fishing, takes a little while to get there, but there's all the locations, like Kincaid has several, Saline Lorto, and a lot of other places. So aquatic plant control, this is probably the most controversy of any management outside of whitetail deer, not sure. But the main objective is to maintain fishing and boating access in public waterways, improve habitat conditions for fish populations, obviously control the invasives. Our two biggest are giant Salvinia. Obviously, we have common Salvinia, but not as problematic as giant, and water hyacinths. And we use integrated pest management, so sustainable approach of managing weeds, utilizing many components of biological, cultural, physical, and chemical tools in any way that minimizes economic, health, and environmental risks. So like a drawdown is also an effective aquatic plant management tool. So you can use that for several things. It's a mechanical type, biological. That was something like the weevils for hyacinths and salvinia, and obviously EPA approved herbicides, which this is Toledo Bend, yellow floating heart, new invasive that does not exist anywhere in Louisiana, but is obviously introduced by somebody to Toledo Bend. It's off of Lanana on there's United Bay, right there, along Highway 6. And there's a special chemical you gotta use. And since it's people pull water for gardening or whatever, you have to put out a Facebook post and this chemical will be applied for this many days, and then everybody trashes the department. But if this plant were to get out across the entire Toledo Bend, it'd be an economic disaster. Basically, completely covers the top. I have pictures on my phone from this weekend. And it's the only place that exists. So there's a threat of it spreading to other places from all the people trailering and such. So we're trying to get rid of it. Very difficult. There's a small pad and a very long stem, and it takes a lot for a chemical to transport down that location. And obviously, I don't like a lot of chemical, but they are EPA approved, and it's such a small amount of chemical. Like one biologist mentioned, like if you were to try to explain parts per million or parts per billion, it's basically like filling up a Superdome and with ping pong balls. And there's only a very few ping pong balls in the entire building. And most of them are specific to certain vegetation. Like if you're treating salvinia, you're not directly killing hydrilla, coondale, milfoil, etc. But we had a lot more public outreach to do. Obviously, chemicals are expensive. There's a lot of politics behind it. There's needs for the public. If it's used for drinking water, there's some things you should be precautionary about. And obviously, we don't want to get rid of the favorable habitat that anglers love. It's interesting, well studied, but there's a guy at LSU that does a lot of study on our herbicides. just to make sure we're using what's best, most effective, and least detrimental to the environment. All right. Water quality, obviously we do this every time we go sampling. And these are the things we collect: turbidity, water temp, DO, salinity, etc. So you need healthy water for healthy fisheries. So we currently buying quite a few new readers just to improve our water quality testing across the state. So, all right,
What is that last one? I can't.
it's a Secchi disc.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's this device right here. Basically, it's a simple way to measure suspended solids turbidity. So as you drop it down, you can no longer define the black versus white markings. Then you record that depth.
Got
So I can come back 2 days after rain and it's gonna be a lot shallower.
Yeah.
But you also can monitor that with the $20,000 piece of equipment.
That's when you can't afford a big piece of equipment. That's when we
Or it breaks.
we use that black and white.
Yeah, these things break every 3 minutes and then you gotta calibrate it or ship it off, but we still have tools.
Oh, the same, y'all don't measure alkalinity?
Typically not super important.
Back when I took the pond management course,
Yes, sir.
Mississippi State, the first thing they tell you is alkalinity is a limiting factor to aquatic production.
Well, I guess pH can be also super important.
That's measured pH.
Yeah, ability of the nutrients to be able to take it into the system.
Yeah.
Like places with more pine trees have more acidic soil, and you typically see less nutrients getting into the system.
You have low pH, you have low alkalinity, that's true.
Yeah, and it might be because that tool that costs a lot of money doesn't have a recording device or.
What's conductivity? What is that? What's the relevance of that?
The conductivity is very important in our effectiveness of being able to electrofish. So if you have a low versus high conductivity,
You can't.
yeah. So like salt water, it was difficult in that system. But now there's a new device that shoots, who knows, tens of thousands of volts, and we're starting to sample saltwater fish with electrofishing.
So does that say the range, if it's saltwater, the range is greater?
I guess there's not, so it's
Or less.
basically amps. So basically the boat between the probe creates kind of an electric field, and saltwater just kind of disperses. So it's not as concentrated, won't affect the fish as much, yeah. But there's this new stingray, they call it, for saltwater.
That's $100,000.
Oh, yeah. And it's very effective in getting young of the year. Like we typically didn't get many flounder in different types of nets, but now we actually get lots of flounder of different sizes. We never really got a lot of small red drum. Now we're getting a lot of small and medium inch groups. Same thing for trout. So we are getting way better data with that one test subject. So pure Florida bass stocking program, that's full bore right now. We've had a very productive year at the hatchery due to stable conditions. Typically, we are capable of producing 2.5 million 2-inch fingerlings. This year, close to 2.9, and weekly we putting bass out across the state. Obviously, Booker Fowler, large facility, so bread and butter, state of the art, I would say, right there on Indian Creek Reservoir. And it's probably more than that now, probably over 140 million pure Florida bass was stocked in Louisiana to date. And we use Florida bass stocking to improve genetics, not technically to improve the number of bass. Native bass are much more in a system that doesn't get repeated Florida bass stockings. The native bass will take over, and then that growth potential disappears. And seems like every bass angler wants more and bigger bass. So
It's not about the species, it's about the customer.
correct. Managing the resource for the people.
Hang up our catch.
And it started back in 1980s whenever big bass became a thing, so I can't just pull all the Florida bass back out of the system like we never did, so,
But you'll get to the minute when I ask some questions about that.
all right?
Lies.
So it's not used to increase the number of bass. Your stocking is not.
Yeah, we don't really have a fish production problem in Louisiana, like the Chapelizod Basin, one bass can have 10,000 eggs, depending on the size. But just survival might be lower. But basically just trying to introduce Florida bass genetics, because from my genetic studies, pretty much every bass over 10 pounds that gets caught is a pure Florida. Sometimes a hybrid, but
Yeah.
like Lake Claiborne, all the ones that were over 10 pounds were pure Florida bass. So they came directly from my hatchery. And this is how you measure Florida bass stockings. The goal is you don't want to compromise wild fish populations, increases the angler's chance of catching trophies, increases angler psychological satisfaction with fishing, which didn't happen to me on Toledo Bend this weekend. I was trying to catch 10 pounders to win Sealy Big Bass money, but I was on a 2-pounder pattern. Still had a great time. And also improves market as far as like people booking, like I did this weekend, booked the Airbnb. I bought tackle that I don't need. I put in hundreds of dollars worth of gas, went to the local restaurant. Yes, sir.
So are Florida bass, placed in every reservoir?
Not every reservoirs that have potential for them to persist and or reach an older age class.
So your natural lakes like Saline
Yeah, they get Florida bass stockings.
and Black Lake, they get
Yes, sir.
bass.
We have it on our website, but I'm gonna make that more readily available. Here's the bass management page, and you can get all your information on everything related to bass, instead of having to go try to find it somewhere. But some places, it doesn't work very well, like our coastal areas where the fish, I'll show you here later, I'll show you right now. It takes a Florida bass, like they grow similar as a native bass, and to be 10+ pounds, typically you have to be a female, so males typically don't. And then once you get past 4 years of age, you're slowly starting to grow to a bigger size compared to a native bass. But if you're in a hurricane-prone environment, like where I live on the Marpaw system, we basically get a reset every 3 to 4 years. You won't see any growth potential. That maybe one might make it every now and then. Somebody catches a 9-pounder, that makes you feel really jealous. But it's more of an anomaly than a closed system like a Claiborne or a Candy Lake, etc.
So it's what's like to see.
Yeah, so like, I'll show you here shortly, but I can answer that question. But the goal is 20% of greater genetic influence from Florida bass. You're not trying to displace all native bass. You just want 20% of genetic influence, which I'll show you how we measure that here in a minute. And that is us doing genetic testing. So to determine a Florida bass versus a native largemouth, we collect fin clips, basically cut a small portion of pectoral fin about the size of my pinky nail. And we use that for pre-stocking baseline genetics. Like I have a project in Lake Buff down south. And the study design is 28 to 30,000 Florida bass, phase 2 bass, 4 to 5 inches over the next 3 years, just to see if in a coastal area, if don't get hit by a hurricane, if we'll get some good growth potential. But first we had to do pre-stocking genetics. There was like a 7% influence of Florida bass, probably from people. Like people move bass, my bass club. I always brought fish back to our home pond in Man Shack. Like, who's bringing back fish? Technically not legal to move fish around Louisiana. But bass made it across the United States very quickly via train and our people. Also post-stocking assessments, like after we do this 3-year stocking, 2 years after that, we'll test our success rate and then potentially continue stocking or reframe if it was not successful. And also hatchery brood stock. We have, I think, 5 different family groups that came from Florida over the years, from St. Johns River, Toho, a couple of different places. So we maintain those groups at the hatchery and test them periodically. All right. And this kind of answers your question on lactocene. A closed system that doesn't have a lot of influence like a river or such, we can influence that genetic introgression very highly. So lactocene is 96.4% pure Florida.
That's why the line goes all the way out to the road in the morning.
Correct. So the same thing with City Park, you have the City Park Big Bass Rodeo, there was 7, 8, 9s that would go on for many years, which is way different than if you went to BBMP next door, which there was a 9 or 10 come out there a couple years ago, which might have came from City Park, moved by an angler. I don't know. Yes, sir.
Are there Florida bass here at Coteau Lake?
I don't have it on here, but yes, Coteau gets stocked regularly, and there's several 10+ pounders that we electrofish and release.
And you're good to know.
Yeah.
Indian Creek has a 15+.
There's an 8, but I took them out of there.
That was a bass that was close to the state record 2 years ago, that we sampled and still alive in Indian Creek. I don't think anybody caught it yet.
Can an angler visually see between a native bass and a Florida bass? There's no way.
Some anglers can, but not very detailed.
Oh,
You have to do
okay.
scale counts along the lateral line.
Okay,
Even we don't try it. We send off the genetics to the testing lab.
got it.
Same thing with male and female bass. You'll hear a tournament angler like, oh, caught this little male, throw it back. He doesn't know. He's just guessing.
Well, that's just so.
Go back a little bit. Yeah, that's it during spawn. But some places a lot more difficult. We tried stocking, but they just don't do that well. Some of our coastal areas, which we were able to increase this to 13% in Bayou Bienvenue from 3%. We've had several 6 and 7 pound bass this spring. In places that are very prone to hurricanes, it's just difficult to establish compared to a closed system reservoir. Property Point, Toledo Bend, D'Arbonne, all of North Louisiana areas. But I'm a South Louisiana guy from around Laplace, and everybody down in our area thinks we neglect them by not stocking Florida bass in Louisiana. But if it was successful, and I'm a black bass guy, I would be, hey, bring me Florida bass here because I want to catch big bass near home, but extremely difficult. Obviously, our native bass are super, I guess they've been exposed to high salinity, changing salinity, low DO after hurricanes. Florida bass just not used to that. So they kind of evolved to live in those systems like Venice for hundreds and hundreds of years.
They're basically a red line from Lake Bruin to Turkey Creek to Glass Lake. They just don't seem to be picking up well there.
Lake Brown up here. Yep, it's
8.265, 2.2%, 7.2%.
yep, some places do well, some places don't really do as well.
Do y'all have any ideas what that might be?
Could be different strategies, could be the health of the system at that point in time. Like we determined, I think I might have a different slide of how many bass we put per acre, and that's typically successful in some places. So we are always.
Need more left.
Correct. And if they survive well, or if they get outcompeted by native bass.
Yeah.
We don't have all answers, but we have a lot more genetics.
There's a lot, there's a lot.
Sure.
They're all.
And we have a lot more genetics than this. This is just like a very small snapshot of some of the lakes that we met, that people are familiar with. Angler surveys, we do this periodically. I'll talk about one if we have time later on. I did one with the Chapelai Basin last year, basically to gather information from the public to get their ideas on preferences, effort, catch, and harvest. We also do creel surveys. We have several going on right now. I'm not sure if y'all been interviewed at a boat launch by one of our staff members.
Yep.
But that gives us a better idea of what's actually happening, rather than just hearsay. Like everybody's keeping 10 bass or catching the limit, but it typically does not align with our observance or my personal fishing. Like everybody's bringing home 50 crappie every day. Like I don't see the people catching them or me. But some places maybe there'll be that one guy that takes home the ice chest all the time that causes a bunch of uproar. Regulations, obviously, you need that as a management tool. Gear restrictions, creel possession limits, size limits, special use permits. I plan to look deeper at our current regulation to see if maybe a certain body of water, we can manipulate it to improve the fishery to what the public wants for that fishery. One example was Bussy Break, like these are outdated now. We basically designated that as a trophy fishery where all bass over 18 inches have to be released. Cause we had a lot of people come from Arkansas and other places, or, hey, I caught this 14-pounder. It'd be nice if he lived in my pond the rest of his life. And then they bring it home, which is okay, but it was kind of going counterintuitive to our efforts of providing opportunity for anglers to catch their personal best. While that new lake effect is taking part, like as the system declines naturally, we'll probably adjust the regulations, as they see appropriate. I hadn't fished Bussy Break, it's kind of sad. I bass fished like almost every weekend, have not made it up there. Probably because social media might have told me I can't fit my truck in the boat launch. I don't know. Maybe I'll go the hottest part of the day, maybe July, August. We also do LA tournament results information project that's collected by Jeff Sibley, our biologist manager in Monroe area. Basically, we have quite a few tournaments or tournament organizations that provide their tournament data monthly, and we accumulate that information. We have an annual report available on the website. So this gives anglers an idea of, hey, where are the biggest bags of bass getting caught? And if you look here, average weight of 22 plus pounds on Black Bayou Austin, close to Arkansas, Caney, Grand Bayou, Claiborne, etc. And if you move down to where I live, you're getting way down here somewhere. Pearl River, Breathville. But we get a lot of information from catch data, and it also gives us an idea of how that system's doing, like if you have a water bass stocking program, or the anglers catching them. And you typically can see that when these tournaments are happening in February, March, April, and harvesting, not harvesting, but catching lots of bass. And state records, I'm sure some of y'all catch said he got some, possibly got some records for fly angling. This is one of our department employees, and it'd be great if one of y'all can go beat him, so he loses his clout.
Is he related to you?
He is not.
Okay.
2.34 pound spotted bass in Comey River. So basically, record's been maintained by Louisiana Outdoor Riders Association and kept for multiple gear types, and that's the current Louisiana 15.97 out of Caney Lake, and there's also spotted bass down there. Fly rod and so the biggest fly rod largemouth is 8.75.
And I had that beat. I caught an 8.81 on Valentine. It's just full of eggs, so I let her go. But
That'd be great.
that's probably a Florida, right?
And be more on there, it wasn't such a pain in the butt to enter.
Correct.
Isn't that
That
true?
is an initiative that stakeholders brought forth to me. It's weird that the department that manages the fisheries does not keep the record, so.
I noticed though that fly rod record goes all the way back to 1979.
Yeah.
It was old.
Yeah.
And another complaint was, say you want to see what the record was on a certain body of water, Texas, you can go click on it, like, his, name of lake, Lake of the Pines, you can see the records for multiple species. Same thing with some other states. I plan to try to make that available and or possibly having an, annual incentive program, or I guess a trophy catch program, kind of like Florida does, trophy catch, they call it. Just to give more publicity to our management and our water bodies, and give another incentive to go out fishing.
And Texas also has a catch and release record for every lake in the system, and do it by inches using a map.
Nice. I plan to work on something like that. Track and management outcomes, like I mentioned, we have water body management plans for most popular fisheries. Possibly you can drop it in ChatGPT to summarize it if you don't want to read all the details. We also do aquatic vegetation type maps. So this mentions all the different types of aquatic vegetation we observed and all the different treatments that have taken place. I plan on making something more digestible for the angling public. So, all right.
Go.
So this is my big project. This basically is my next 10 years of work for the department, is implementing a statewide black bass management plan that's based on public and stakeholder input. That's what the goal is. Key components, public driven plan. So I have a stakeholder working group, representatives from across the state, but also I've been going to meetings like this. And at the end of this meeting, if y'all have anything y'all would like to see as far as our black bass management efforts. And I also did a statewide angler survey, which I might have seen, which I have some results of here also. Action-oriented strategies with measurable outcomes, so they can measure my performance as a biologist. Like improved access, there'll be a measurable component, like we improved access on 5 water bodies. Like we don't want another plan that disappears into a file cabinet and we see nothing in 10 years. We want the public to be aware of what's happening. And I have a 10-year implementation timeline. Some things like trying to bring the records back to the department might be year 1. Other things that might require lots of funding will take a lot longer. So, all right. Why involve stakeholders? Obviously, us biologists think with a biologist brain, even though I'm an angler first. But a lot of biologists are, it's called book smart if you want to. So stakeholders, obviously we want to keep them involved in decisions that directly affect them. Also have unique contributions that could help inform future management efforts and involve stakeholders. And I would say well-informed stakeholders are more likely to support the decisions that are made and help facilitate the implementation of our efforts. And potential focal areas, that is a thing that I just thought about that we need to improve on before I start the management plan process. Obviously, access and opportunity. A lot of problems in South Louisiana with access. A place like Toledo Bend has 100 boat launches. In Texas, just built 3 very nice ramps, SRA. So trying to identify those places that have access issues or stream areas, like you gotta park on the side of a road. And you know, it's a scenic river, but you don't know if your truck's gonna be there when you leave. Maybe sometimes we can alleviate those issues.
We got some of those spots.
Engagement and communication, habitat, hatchery improvements, invasive species, population management, etc. Implementation. So basically, the powerhouse of the plan are the 9 inland districts with local managers and local biologists. They know those fisheries more than I can. Like I might know the Marpaw, BBMP, coastal areas very well, but I don't spend much time on Cattle Lake or something like that. So basically getting all of our staff involved. Also strengthen collaboration with anglers, going to more groups like this, bass club meetings, more presence at angling events. Anytime we have new information that I as an angler would think the public would like to hear or would be helpful to them, to put that information available in an understandable format, not 15 graphs and all kind of weird acronyms. So metrics, like I said, I want to be able to evaluate the plan success. So examples will be changes in black bass populations towards the goal, angler and stakeholder satisfaction, effectiveness of our outreach and education, improved angler access and opportunities, and success of habitat restoration efforts. Like some lakes are void of aquatic vegetation. We can do a lot more studies and seeing what is causing it. Maybe it's crop runoff. Maybe it is the chemical. Maybe it is, who knows? But definitely better habitat equals better fisheries, and we recognize that. And I plan on looking deep at everything that can negatively affect favorable vegetation, seeing if we can adjust here. So a little bit happened since the Red Stick Day. Basically, I launched a project in 2025. Had my first stakeholder meeting, did a statewide angler survey, and I shared those survey results. with the stakeholder group. And I started pretty much through the stakeholder meetings to get their ideas. And I'm gonna start drafting a plan with the angle survey and stakeholder initiatives. And it'll be put out for review and public comment period. And anybody can call or email me at any point in time. And then finalize the plan and begin implementation. And obviously, being a 10-year plan, it's gonna be very flexible as conditions change, or if we have a massive hurricane, like we might have to adjust some of those activities. Or if we find that we are missing some facet of black bass management, or a new technology comes along, maybe we get better at genetics or et cetera, we'll adjust accordingly. And I'm just gonna skim this bonus, if we got time. Yeah, so there's the results from the angle survey. It was a web-based survey. There's many different ways to do a survey. I wanted to make it available. I didn't want my neighbor to say, you did a mail-out survey, but I didn't have an opportunity to take it. So basically, it ran from November 21st to December 7th, 19 questions, and we had close to 2,000 total. Some people might have ended the survey towards the end. But overall, 87% completion rate is very high. It's typically like a 50 or 60% completion rate for similar surveys I've looked at from Arkansas and other places. And average completion time of nearly 10 minutes, which I wasn't surprised of. Some people were, but anglers like to be engaged, like to have an opportunity to share information where possible, kind of like myself. So there's a heat map of where the responses came from. They typically, I live in Baton Rouge and know a lot of people, so that probably helped. And we have a higher population in our urban centers, so you can see like the red hot spots around Homewood, Thibodaux, Monroe, Shreveport, Lake Charles, Lafayette. We got one guy out on a boat somewhere in the Gulf. But overall, pretty good statewide assessment in responses representing the angling community. And that's just broken down numbers by inland fisheries districts. So, all right. There's a breakdown by age of responses. This might be when it's affordable to go bass fishing, or you can afford the big boat and all this other stuff. Or you need 14 rods. I don't know. Overall, like we captured pre-licensed individuals from 12 to 17 years old, and all the way up to some anglers that might have bass fished for 50, 60 plus years in the 75 to 85 age group. All right. So other responses, 95% fish by boat, 27% from shore, 50% from paddlecraft. I was hoping I'd get more paddlecraft anglers, but it seems like the boat anglers are the most vocal. Paddlecraft anglers probably just enjoying themselves fishing, and shore anglers may not have come across.
The numbers don't add up, so I'm guessing that some people, like myself, fish for boat, shore, and paddlecraft.
Correct, yeah, so that's the caveat of the question, like you can select more than one mode. Might have been no comments or deleted it. I fished by
Paddlecraft people use both ends.
correct. If I'm randomly by a pond or have access to a pond or something, like, sure, I have a rod that rides in my truck. I'll go catch these bass that nobody fishes for. Top reasons anglers fish, and this probably goes across all fishing, challenge and enjoyment, relaxation and time outdoors. That was the highest responses. Harvest for food, 53%, tournament, 44%. We all have our own reasons, but I think the longer you fish, you more just like myself, just the challenge and enjoyment. When I was 20, I wanted to be a bass angler, and then I realized that's not a great way to make a living, but I can't figure out a fish for 4 days straight. And how do anglers define success in bass fishing trips? Kind of goes along the same lines of just emotional and time spend time with family, regardless of catching and releasing a lot of bass, catching a few bass. But less centric on catching a trophy. We know that doesn't happen every day. I still have not caught a 10-pounder with, who knows, 87,000 bass angling hours. I don't know, caught a 9, but can't find a 10. And catching unlimited keepers was one of the lowest priorities.
Sorry.
So what do anglers consider a trophy? It's kind of important based on where you live at in our management efforts. And to me, it aligns with what I would think. Like if you catch a 6-pounder down in District 8 where I live, then your uncle knows about it, your friends know about it. I remember it from 15 years ago. It's a great fish. But if you live in District 1 or District 10, fish Toledo Bend, Caddo, Claiborne, Black Bayou Austin, Caney, like a 5-pounder, you don't even take a picture with it, or a 6-pounder. And that gives a good idea of what we need to match for. Like we can't produce hundreds and hundreds of 10-pounders. Like first you gotta be a female. First you gotta have optimum forage and water conditions. You gotta survive lots of hooks. There's a lot that it takes to make it 10 years and actually grow to 10+ pounds. It always will be an anomaly, kind of like a 200-inch whitetail deer. Unless you're in a high fence and you feed all the time, but you can do that with the bass also. Harvest frequency by angler type. Basically, was not surprising to me neither. I broke it down by tournament angler and non-tournament angler. And obviously, when you're scouting for a tournament anglers call that's my money fish. I might catch them 2 days from now and win my $60 jackpot bass club tournament. And so they were more likely to never keep bass, rarely. But once you get in the middle, sometimes, like me, I like to fish tournaments for fun. I also eat bass. I eat bass from Toledo Bend Saturday. Only 3. And it wasn't big. And it was delicious. Satisfaction with public access. I did break this down by inland district, a lot different, like in District 10, District 2 compared to some of our coastal areas. Which public access was defined as shoreline access for fishing. If you don't have a boat, ponds, rivers, etc. Not just boat ramps. I know paddlecraft becoming more popular, like how is the access to certain locations for a paddlecraft? That's something I'll be interested in knowing on the areas we can improve in. But most people were very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, or neutral. But like I mentioned, if you took District 8, Slidell area, much higher than the northern parts of the state. But that gives us a good idea of where we need to focus our efforts on access. And satisfaction with public access is what I was talking about. So it's broken down by district. You see our coastal areas, they were either somewhat or very dissatisfied, 36%, and lower levels of dissatisfaction up in northwest Louisiana. Right. I think a factor is like Bayou Black goes from Terrebonne, it's a giant area and mostly private owned land. So you might be fishing 17 miles away from the
So
boat
they're
ramp.
mad about trying to drive to put your boat in.
Yeah. But like a small reservoir, like Caney Lake, I guess fine having 2-3 ramps. Like, I just go to state park every time I go. And this is awareness of LDWF efforts, basically all the information I talked about, which has a lot of data and details behind that. If you ever want to look at it, I plan to make it much more readily available to anglers. But the only initiative that people were highly aware of, 66.5%, was our Florida bass production and stocking. But most of our other efforts had very little awareness, that's our problem of not sharing that information, which we plan to do a better job of. And these are some things that came out of the survey. There were over 2,000 comments at the end. I had the opportunity open-ended questions. Do you have any specific information you would like to share? And there's a lot to read and it was interesting. But came from anglers from all parts of the state, so extremely important. And I was able to narrow it down to several categories. And that information will be included in our initiatives to try to improve upon.
Yeah, there we go.
And that's about it. But
Well, I thought you'd want to know that Peter tried your gurgler today. And landed a huge, largemouth.
Oh, good, good.
In New York.
In New York.
I have a question. Do y'all encourage or discourage homeowners to put like little artificial reefs or like place Christmas trees around their docks or anything like that?
so we had that on Darbone when we did the last drawdown.
Uh-huh.
We actually encouraged landowners to plant terrestrial vegetation when the lake was down, which equals nutrients once the system comes back up, like
Right.
they plant Japanese millet and such. Yeah, it's not a problem. It's not a navigational hazard.
Right, no.
Like, it's totally fine to,
Okay.
but obviously not throwing cars or refrigerators out there.
Oh, no.
Adding natural structures.
Oh, shucks.
I do plan on
Go
maybe
build
going
your
to like
line.
high school fishing really big. Get the younger generations at our Habitat Project days and at least showing them what fisheries management looks like, maybe help retain anglers deep into adulthood. But in bass clubs, anybody that would want to, just because our reservoirs are aging and building Candy Lake and Property Point in the last 15+ years. Very difficult to build a reservoir these days. Basically have to steal people's land and what are the impact of downstream. A lot goes on there. So we have degraded habitat in a lot of our systems and like places that need it. I'm gonna get each inland district to prioritize their list of water bodies that need habitat improvements and start working down that list with different efforts.
I moved from Ruston and they were talking about stocking tiger bass in the Claiborne or whatever, tiger bass and how are they different?
Yes, so tiger bass is a marketing term used by fish hatchery in Alabama, American sport fish. But it's essentially a hybrid, a first generation cross, F1, Florida bass, native largemouth bass, which we've seen in Louisiana to grow the largest bass. Pure Florida bass works better. So the Lake Commission, Toledo Valley Lake Association, several different groups we allow it. They purchase tiger bass and stock them in different systems. But our recommendation to Lake Claiborne, like we see the population change because by stocking pure Floridas to improve the trophy size. And if they want the most bang for that buck, they should also be stocking pure Florida bass. Once you get one cross, and then you got a lot more hybrids again, which hybrids, they have their benefits, they might be more aggressive. But Florida bass is where the trophy potential is. Yeah. And there's another one, there's a Titan bass, different hatcheries, marketing term. It helps share lunker bass. Arkansas had the legacy lunker program that they started this past year, kind of like a share lunker program. We have a secret strain of bass also, where we have not released that name. I might, I'll say it quickly. Boop, boop. Yeah,
Did you say Roo?
it's close to that. Genetics has come a long way. It used to cost several $100s, maybe thousands to sample one bass to see its lineage. Now it's $14 to $20. So I plan to hopefully answer a lot of questions I have, scientific community and anglers with genetics, because many traits are heritable, like salinity tolerance, land, ability to handle low dissolved oxygen. So we can actually look at a population of bass and be like, hey, this bass that lived in Venice forever has these traits, but this Florida bass basically will die when you throw them in there. It's very interesting stuff. I'm not a geneticist, but it intrigues me. But there's people a lot smarter than me that can look at different markers.
So where do you send them to?
So there's different labs, Tennessee Tech, University at the Water Center. There's a study that came out of Alabama, Auburn University several years ago, and they found the locations in the genome, called it SNP, single nucleotide polymorphisms. So deep in there, there's certain places where they see a difference of genetic species differentiation, Florida bass, northern bass, etc. So basically, these labs grew up and they look at those locations and they send back a percentage for each bass. That might be 93% Florida, 7% native.
There's 23andMe, but for fish.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any advantage, disadvantage for them crossbreeding? The natives in the Floridas?
So the first cross, generational cross with most fish species that can interbreed, you get hybrid bigger, call it.
So you get your tiger grass.
You get your tiger bass, potential to grow quicker, faster, maybe bigger, more aggressive. Our native bass are much better at living in Louisiana than Florida bass, so without supplemental stocking in places where they are successful, that system would probably return to native bass after 10+ years.
Oh,
They get out and beat it.
okay.
It's kind of the threat of the Alabama bass. Like they interbreed. We don't want them here. They interbreed with largemouth, spotted bass, etc. But grow to a small size, much more aggressive. Basically, can destroy a fishery. But our Florida bass, like if we quit going and stock Florida bass, the natives will reign once again.
Yeah, they're just better adapted to our environment.
Correct. Yes. It's interesting stuff.
You know, any tagging programs that are in the state, bass tagging programs?
Only private type stuff, but something I would like to do also. I would like to do maybe a tournament release mortality, like say a tournament in February in a Chapel Basin versus a tournament in June. With the idea that, like I say, there is a big difference. Anglers typically want to do better if they knew that the late mortality was 90% in the summer months and 3% in the winter months. They probably would refrain from holding tournaments during the time period, maybe reduce the instead of a 5-bag limit, maybe 3, stuff like that. And our movement studies I like to do also, like whether those fish go when they get pulled from Grand Lake in the Chapelaya, they get voted all the way to Doron's Landing and get dumped in the Intracoastal. Where do they go? Yeah, I don't know. Same thing in coastal areas. Like we can see it in our electrofishing. Every day is different. And I tell every hour is different. Like if you get there at 7 o'clock on a certain day at a certain tide, they might be an abundance of bass that you'll sample. You come back the next day in the same spot, something changed, wind direction, no bass, then it looks like the fishery is no good. But you go 400 yards this way, might be where they are located.
That's when we go, Jim.
Yeah, I tested that there this year. Like we sampled, that was out of the Delacroix area. We sampled our normal sites, the 8, 9, 10 bass, and I was like, hey, let's go somewhere that I think would be good today based on my angling experience. And then we had like 26 bass in the same amount of time, so double the amount of bass. Had cleaner water, moving water, shell bottom. A lot of these sites degrade over time, and we might have been sampling for 20 years when they had beautiful aquatic vegetation, they had good depth, it wasn't just mucky bottom. That's another thing, looking at our sampling sites, moving sites based on current conditions, and getting a diversity of different, like you wanted a dead end canal, main thoroughfare, inland lake, like different portions.
So many variables, I don't even know how you do your job. Everything just sounds still helps. That's what I said. Yeah.
And it's a lot of water, so it's hard to see them.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Talking back up.
Another question, cattle watching used to be a world-class bass fisher.
Yes.
I remember.
I experienced it, had a great time.
Yeah. Oh,
Biggest
man.
day, I caught 60 bass on a banded 200 crawfish colored crankbait in one cut.
Yeah,
Wow.
I caught that, and I caught like 2 dozen bass on poplar in one day.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I moved 50 yards.
Correct.
We're at.
What happened to it?
Catawatchee, what'd you say?
Lake Catawatchee, around the Bay Signet, south of New Orleans.
Oh,
That's why the Bassmaster Classic was held for several years. A lot of people ran to Venice, but Kevin Van Dam fished 10 minutes from the launch and won a tournament and had the biggest bag, biggest 3-day event total for a classic in the country at that point in time.
Oh, my.
It's now been beat. But that was a, you call it anomaly. It was, conditions were perfect for that period of time. We had Florida bass stocking 10 years prior to, might have been 2011, where Kevin Van Dam was catching on with 8-pounders. Fishing was great. The diversion project was built, but not completely running full bore or not completely restricted like it is right now. So you had enough fresh water to promote all the beautiful grass that was everywhere. So you had good recruitment, good survival, good forage base, superior genetics with Florida bass. Obviously the natives did great too. Caught so many 2 to 4 pound bass, it was unreal. But a lot of people catching 6, 7s, 8s, 9s, which is an anomaly down there. If I could repeat that 10-year time frame, I would. And avoided hurricanes. I want to go back and look at the detailed, like all the water gauges, all the salinities, for that 10-year period. Just because I'm extremely curious of what happened in that time slot. Because recently we had a massive drought 2 years ago, and places like Lafitte, the Penn, which is typically a good bass fishing area, like it was half of what seawater is in salinity, which basically nukes all the aquatic vegetation, pushes all the bass out of the system and or kills them. So we sampled there 2 weeks ago, and redfish, no bass.
Wow.
And now I'm kind of scared again this year where we got very little, didn't really get a river rise. The diversion pretty much doesn't get a run due to whatever commercial interest. I'm not sure.
With our disappearing land on the coast, there's gonna be more saltwater incursion, right?
Yeah,
And it's gonna affect.
that is the risk of the bass population for sure. For whatever reason, Bayou Avenue is doing great. That's my preferred place to go fish now. I can catch 40 bass sometimes, then I go catch redfish, then I go catch flounder.
And I used to fish that place a lot, and that was salt water. I
Yeah,
mean, and now it's like,
and it might be because it gets fertilized from the wastewater getting leaked from New Orleans. I don't know.
some people says because the Chalmette wall.
I know, it helps. Yeah, salinity wasn't that.
And cutting up their own geo.
So it's hard to manage these dynamic systems, which I can't act like I have the answers. With the Lake Buff project, I'm hoping we have a 5-6 year span with no massive hurricanes. Like I would like the Florida bass to be successful, have anglers catch, I'll be down there too, catching 6, 7, 8, 9 pound bass. It's just difficult. Conditions keep changing environmentally. The winter time with the massive fronts, if you get repeat fronts for 4 or 5 days, like some of those inland lakes are nearly dry, which had great aquatic vegetation growth the spring and summer prior. But then once you expose all that to no water and freezing temperatures, it's gone. And you might have to wait 2 years for it to come back. Like aquatic submerged aquatic vegetation is the most extremely difficult thing to keep alive. It's a miracle that it exists in some places. You can't have turbidity at high levels for several weeks, and you're blocking all sunlight, and then gone. I need to study plants more and more. Like obviously, coontail creates turion in the wintertime, which is a seed that stays in the sediment, and then if conditions are favorable, then it was brought back up. That's kind of what's happening on Toledo after the massive flood event. Yeah, what year that was, on the dam was vibrating. So that rips a lot of the vegetation out and covers areas with sediment. But super clear water, low water this year. I hope it stays low for a while, but not where it restricts access to boat launches. It's like a less
Well,
money.
the grass carp, because the grass, is it ruining part of the good stuff that we need, to have they take that out?
So places where vegetation is down to extremely low level, like we try replanting very often, we're doing some replanting this year. And we fence it off and we'll see great growth. So the water conditions are favorable at that time, but there's turtles, carp, waterfowl. If you have a small buffet, it just gets mixed pretty hard by all the competition. So Florida has big, on the St. Johns River, that place used to be phenomenal. And there's some organization, the River Keepers or something, and they realized that to have an impact, they have manatees eating all the vegetation also. So you have to replant at such a large scale, that's kind of difficult to see a beneficial, level to the fishery.
You got a social media site, or you prepare one on this, so to get more people, you're talking about public knowledge, right? I guess that's supposed the best thing going on, something like that.
Yeah, so I know where the audience is, there's different age groups in Facebook, different age groups in YouTube. I'm hoping to get a dedicated, either inland fisheries webpage or someplace where all of our fisheries information for our freshwater species would be directly available. Instead of having to go through all the enforcement posts and whatever happened that weekend.
Can we put a link on our site? Some of the things you should.
Yeah, we can, I mean, yeah.
And I'm like,
But you have to create that Facebook page, you haven't created.
no, I guess I didn't get to the timeline, but the 10-year plan is scheduled to be finalized mid-year of this year, 2026. After it goes out to a public review, I'm gonna bring it forth to the commission and kind of present the gist of it, post it on our website, make it available. And every angler in the state can review it, you have to look at it as a group and provide any feedback. And I'll try to incorporate the feedback into the final plan once it goes out. But always willing to talk to anybody. Like I know I don't have all the answers. I know it's extremely difficult to manage fish. But I know that we do put a lot of effort into trying to do what's best for the anglers. Like we want favorable aquatic vegetation in our lakes at the proper level. We want anglers catching lots of bass, big bass, all those things, but.
Well, you're doing a great job, because this is the most detailed, and most in-depth, process that we've ever done in the state of Louisiana for bass
And
management.
And I guess for like kayak anglers and fly fishermen, like we want those voices heard. Like what would benefit different angler types. Not everybody has a bass boat. Some people might not have access to anything besides an urban pond. But we stock some of those fisheries, but I know we can do better in a lot of places to provide access. Spotted bass, it's kind of looked at as a secondary species in most states. But we would like to, I know a lot of it's secretive. I got some secret spotted bass fishing areas out there. But where possible, promote that species, promote fly angling, stuff like that. There's nothing better than July or August, like I was talking to him earlier. It's cooler, you got cool water, wading in the stream. I know the feeling, nobody else around.
Yeah.
If it was spotted bass, you wouldn't have to get too big of a bass in order to knock that guy off. Go for it.
Yeah, that's right.
Go for it. Sign up. But like, go back and see if he's grown up. I have seen some bigger than that are. I have not caught any, but I have seen
I
some.
think I seen the fly fishing state record, obviously. I was part of it.
2.25 or something like that.
2.7. Yeah,
Okay.
I seen them in Chapel Creek, you know what I said?
Well, they've been spilled.
Yeah, that probably has a spot that's close to 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think that there are probably several larger spotted bass that just wasn't captured due to the $20 fee application.
25.
Get about.
The problem is finding a place to wait.
Correct.
Yeah, I went to a meat market and they wouldn't weigh. I had a second place white bass and they
Yeah,
wouldn't weigh it.
years ago, changed.
Sure.
They waited, but it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they fixed to shut the door. And I managed to get into the way. Bill went there last month with white bass, they wouldn't wait.
Yeah, I think there's some DHAs, Department of Health and Hospital things.
Yeah. You just, catch the boy at the right time when you put it on the scale, I guess.
Yeah, it's against the regs for them to weigh it in their meat market, but that's where you have to have it weighed.
That's been brought up.
Won't weigh it for you or something like that, but most of them don't even have official scales.
Correct, yeah, so Department of Agriculture several years ago removed the scale certification process. So there's a lot less.
That makes it breaking this.
That has to be.
That's fine.
That's
So the CPR by inches, just take a picture with your camera
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
it's done.
yeah, so like say we did an annual, like trophy catch program or annual lake records program, like who caught the biggest bass on Burning Lake and reported it
Mhm.
through a half, by length.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
get some prize donated hopefully, different companies. And, publicity, like, in the state of Louisiana, nobody, like I know of, probably 200+ bass over 10 pounds caught this spring or early summer, but that information is not really available out there. Some people don't want to see out there. So within this area of Rapides.
Any other questions for Zane?
Really like
I think it's great.
You can share my contact with your whole group, and like I said, always willing to talk fishing, bass fishing. Probably gonna try to get some fly tying advice from y'all in the future. Typically tying egg patterns for Colorado. Simple stuff, parachute Adams.
They sell that in stores.
Very,
Parachute Adams.
very informative, very entertaining. Very good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
You're gonna retire in 10 years?
I think
Is that your 10-year plan?
the government wants me to work 19 more.
Oh, so you got 2 10-year plans.
10-year plan.
That's
If
it.
I do a decent job in the first, otherwise I can be voted out.
Anthony, you have any questions? We haven't reached out to you here.
I'm good.
You good? Thanks, man.
I guess my perspective, like I best first, fishing farm, just privately, do some rich family member in Mississippi. I tested all the bass lures that I had.
I'm gonna sign off, man.
I afford to go on, Disney World or something, so I had to have a free lake house.